A good-looking dude walks into a convenience store, face covered in blood. He's clearly out of it, drawn like a moth to a flame to the food spread out on a table where two girls are chilling. Now, two arrogant guys stroll up to him, all swagger and entitlement. Then, boom, out of nowhere, one of the bullies gets thrown back by some invisible force. He just goes flying. The other guy, thinking his friend's getting jumped, spins around, grabs the bloody-faced guy by the collar, and screams. Suddenly, his hand is in excruciating pain, like someone wrenching his arm out of its socket. And then, the whole convenience store explodes. So, who is this blood-soaked guy with seemingly godlike powers? This guy is Seobach. He's the world's first genetically engineered human clone, created through some seriously next-level genetic modification. He's not just a clone, he's immortal. But it doesn't stop there. He can manipulate everything around him with his mind, through brainwaves, control everything. He can move objects and, as we saw, fling people around like ragdolls. Seobach even has the potential to develop insane destructive power, enough to wipe out an entire army. Now, the scientists didn't create him to cause chaos. They were driven by the oldest fear in the book, death. They desperately wanted to use this cloned kid, his blood, his special cells, to cure every disease imaginable. Even cancer, the big C itself, could be wiped out. That's why they named him Seobach, a legendary name, representing humanity's eternal desire for immortality. For the longest time, Seobach's existence was a closely guarded secret, locked away in a lab. But then, one night, the head of the Seobach project is assassinated by a shadowy organization. The killed scientist was a top American researcher, and his death sent shockwaves to the US Embassy in South Korea. Once the Americans find out what this experiment is all about, they demand that South Korea hand over Seobach immediately. One of our best scientists has been murdered. This is definitely connected to whatever you're doing in that lab. You're running out of time, they yell. But on. The director of the South Korean intelligence agency has his own, shall we say, less than pure intentions for the Seobach experiment. He knows this project goes way above his head, but he's also a guy who likes to cover his butt. So he decides to bring in an outsider to handle the dirty work. Enter Hian, a former intelligence agent. See, Hian is dying from a terminal illness. He's literally counting down the days. He doesn't want anything to do with this mess. But then on dangles the ultimate carrot, a cure for his disease, using Seobach. The guy's terrified of dying, so he decides to take one last shot at life. Hian gets inside the research facility. He sees firsthand just how insane this Seobach kid is. Apparently, Seobach's bone marrow can produce cells that cure every disease on the planet. Everything. I mean, at that point, calling him immortal isn't even an exaggeration. Then, Seobach unleashes some kind of power, and dirt and leaves go flying all over the lab. It's like a telekinetic tornado. Hian is completely blown away. He can barely believe his eyes. The scientists are convinced that Seobach's brainwaves can control everything around him. Witnessing all this, Hian starts to feel a flicker of hope, a chance to save his own life. Protecting Seobach suddenly becomes his mission, his only mission. If he can just get Seobach to safety, he'll be first in line for Seobach's clinical trials. In short, Seobach has become Hian's only lifeline. But here's the kicker. Hian has no clue that On sees him as nothing more than a pawn. On plans to double-cross him as soon as he's no longer useful. While they're transporting Seobach, a squad of mercenaries ambushes the convoy. They come in like a freaking hurricane, wiping out the cops and scientists in seconds. This mercenary attack completely throws On's plan into chaos. Hian, of course, has to protect Seobach at all costs. He knows if something happens to the experiment, he's not only losing his chance at survival, but his superiors will ditch him faster than you can say government conspiracy. What surprises him is that the attackers seem to know who he is, and they're not going for the kill. Instead, they knock him out and kidnap both him and Seobach. One of the mercenaries expertly opens a medical kit. Inside, there's a drug designed to stop Seobach cells from dividing too rapidly. Basically, it's a suppressant, something to keep him from losing control. Seobach knows exactly what's going on, so he resists getting injected with this stuff. He warns the mercenary to back off, telling them not to even think about it. But the mercenary just laughs it off. Seobach then uses his brainwaves to send the mercenary flying backwards. At the same time, the whole place starts shaking violently. Even though Seobach is tied to a chair, he can still use his telekinetic powers to create immense pressure. an energy-crushing force that can literally turn someone into dust. Hian sees his chance and attacks the mercenary. The tremors and chaos draw the attention of the other mercenaries, who rush over to investigate. Hian, using the chaos of the mercenary attack, manages to get Seobach into a car and blasts through the perimeter. With Seobach's surprisingly on-point directions, they ditch the abandoned warehouse. First thing Hian does after escaping? Calls On, of course. But little does he know, On has completely changed his plans. On's now terrified that Seobach's existence will be exposed, leading to a catastrophic mess. So he's decided to eliminate Seobach for good. Oblivious, Hian leads Seobach on foot to the nearest safe house. He notices that Seobach is totally captivated by everything around him. He's like a kid seeing the world for the first time. Then, Hian's illness flares up again, and that's when he realizes Seobach has wandered off to explore the neighborhood. When Hian finds him, Seobach is just observing people and things, wide-eyed and curious. But the clothes Seobach's wearing are drawing attention. People are staring and whispering. Hian has no choice but to buy him a new outfit to blend in. And it's the first time this kid has ever worn colorful, modern clothing. It's like Hian is finally starting to understand this sheltered kid. Hian takes him back to his base of operations, a safe house where he can lay low. Seobach is fascinated by everything. It's all so new and strange to him. Suddenly, Seobach says he's starving. So, Hian gives him a taste of the outside world. A simple cup of instant noodles. Seobach's world explodes. This is the first time he's ever experienced real food. He devours it. He's so into it that he polishes off 3 bowls and then sheepishly asks Hian for another. This brief interaction makes Hian even more curious about Seobach's childhood. But then he learns the truth. From the moment he was born, Seobach has endured countless inhumane injections. The pain is beyond what any normal person could bear. He's never experienced basic human rights. The only person who ever showed him any kindness was Dr. Im, his creator. To Seobach, his life has been stripped of any sense of self. Hian is stunned, speechless. He feels an overwhelming wave of sympathy for this poor kid. But just then, an intruder alert flashes on Hian's monitor. He checks the camera feed and confirms it's one of On's men. Without hesitation, he lets him in. The intruder confirms Seobach's identity and immediately points his gun at him. Hian throws himself in front of Seobach, ready to protect him. The intruder fires, but somehow all the bullets miss Hian and go flying all over the room. This mind-blowing power display comes courtesy of Seobach. Then, Hian rushes forward to take down one of the agents, leaving the other one face-to-face with Seobach. That's when Seobach unleashes a shockwave. A freaking shockwave. Hian, who just finished taking down the other agent, is thrown across the room. When he slowly stumbles back inside, he's speechless. Seobach is standing perfectly still, untouched, but the entire place is wrecked, and the attacking agents are down. All by the power of his mind. At this point, Hian is forced to see Seobach as a monster. It's just not humanly possible. But then, a call from On snaps him back to reality. He realizes this was all a setup, On's plan all along. Years ago, he and his partner risked their lives on a national mission. But the mission failed, and he became a wanted man. His partner, backed into a corner, offered up evidence against On, hoping it would clear their names and restore their honor. But fighting the system is never easy. Hian, at the time, chose to bow down to those in power. As a result, his partner took the fall and died in his place. Ever since that day, Hian has been paying for his cowardice. Not only was he forced out of the intelligence agency, but he was diagnosed with a terminal illness. He refuses to be fooled again. Hian defies the order to kill Seobach and instead contacts Dr. Im from the lab. But plot twist, the real mastermind behind the Seobach experiment is Chairman Kim, and he's the one who wants Seobach the most. He's invested his entire life in this research, all to achieve his dream of immortality, especially now that he's running out of time. So, when he learns that On wants to kill Seobach, Chairman Kim declares war on the intelligence agency. Why did you decide to kill that boy? Did you meet with the Americans? Sir, if the experiment is exposed, we're all dead. You little punk. Lecturing me? If you want to keep your old ass alive, you'll do as I say. Chairman Kim hangs up, furious. On, in turn, issues a nationwide manhunt for Seobach and Hian, with orders to kill them on sight if they resist. Seobach and Hian are on the road, heading back to the lab. Seobach asks why Hian was willing to protect him back there. Hian just sighs and says that his life depends on him now. Suddenly, Seobach starts coughing up blood. This is definitely a side effect of the suppressant drugs. Then, while Hian is filling up the car with gas, Seobach, driven by his uncontainable curiosity, gets into trouble again. He ends up attacking those two students, which, if you remember, is the scene we saw at the beginning of the movie. All of this immediately blows their cover. They manage to escape to a beach. A heated argument erupts between the two. Seobach realizes Hian intends to take him back to the lab, to the cold and calculating scientist. He's seen enough of human cruelty, and he lashes out at Hian. "Why are you doing this to me? You're doing all this to save your own life because you know I can help you live longer, right? This is a desire no one can escape, especially when faced with a faint glimmer of hope when you're near death. Anyone would grab onto it. But that only makes death more taunting to Hian. This hits Hian hard, causing him to collapse. When he wakes up, Hian seems to have cleared his head. Even if Seobach wants to save him, this so-called human experiment is just a tragedy waiting to happen, especially when it means sacrificing someone's entire life and freedom. Plus, those scientists are performing brutal experiments on Seobach's body. So, he decides he wants Seobach to flee the country and never come back. But Seobach says he has no home. He has nowhere to go. His only memories, his only recollections, are of that cold, sterile laboratory. The only person who truly cared about him there was Dr. Im, his mother. So, he willingly chooses to return to the lab. This decision shocks Hian, but he respects Seobach's decision. Seobach then uses his powers to create a breathtaking spectacle. He uses his brainwaves to control the birds, making them soar and dance across the sunrise sky. It's beautiful. Seobach tells Hian that death is never the end. Forgetfulness is the real end. So, before this journey is over, Seobach asks Hian to take him to a place he's always wanted to go, a place that holds his mother's memories, because he was created to replace her lost child in her heart. He knows his mother created him to replace the son she lost in an accident, but the end result wasn't what she wanted. To his mother, Seobach is just a replacement, but Seobach has independent feelings, but cannot decide his life. He cannot be a normal person and have the affection that belongs to him, and the identity of the genetically modified clone makes him a different person in this world. The only kindness he can feel is from Dr. Im, not much but not little. Hian, who was on the verge of death, could sympathize and understand the despair brought about by this loneliness. But compared to Seobach, he was much more optimistic. Seobach suddenly coughs up more blood. The suppressant drugs, combined with being away from the lab for too long, are causing his cells to divide too rapidly. His body can't handle it. Hian floors it, speeding towards the lab. But they're immediately targeted by the intelligence agency. An has called in a horde of mercenaries to take them down. After a desperate chase, they're surrounded. But at this crucial moment, a swarm of attack drones appears out of nowhere, tearing through the intelligence agents' vehicles. An immediately recognizes the drones as the same weapon used to kill the American scientists. And what's even more shocking, these attacks are being orchestrated by Chairman Kim himself. Hian and Seobach are brought back to the lab. The director contacts Chairman Kim. If he continues like this, he'll be taking on the entire country. But Chairman Kim is obscenely wealthy and utterly fearless. "I'm old and incredibly sick. The doctors say I'm about to die. If I'm about to die, what do I have to be afraid of?" Hian wakes up. He's completely unaware of the escalating conflict. All he knows is that Seobach was immediately forced onto an operating table to begin the experiments, and Hian is to be the first test subject. But when he learns that the price of his cure is turning Seobach into a living vessel, eternally bound and used for his bone marrow, he understands just how evil everyone here is. Don't you think this is too cruel? Was this boy's purpose when he was born to do something like this? It dawns on Hian that with Seobach's power, no one can truly restrain him. He's willingly sacrificing himself, ready to trade his freedom for Hian's chance at life. It's also his way of fulfilling his mother's dream of curing humanity. Seobach is willingly becoming a vessel for experimentation. But for Hian, a man who has experienced betrayal and death, he knows that everyone born human has the right to choose. Why, with a human body and feelings, should Seobach be denied human rights? Instead, these people, afraid of death, are using the hope of curing humanity as an excuse to satisfy their own selfish desires. Faced with this horrific situation, Hian, who has stared death in the face, decides to give Seobach his freedom. He interrupts the experiment, holding Dr. Shin at gunpoint and demanding that he stop. But the doctor says that once the experiment has started, there's no turning back. So, Hian decides he needs to find Dr. Im and have her stop it. But when he demands to know Dr. Im's whereabouts, Dr. Shin calmly opens a chamber. Inside lies Dr. Im's body. It turns out that after Dr. Im learned Seobach was to be used as an eternal vessel, she threatened Chairman Kim, the investor, but she received a bullet in return. The reason they kept Dr. Im's body is that Seobach's genes were originally taken from Dr. Im's son for cloning, so they wanted to keep the body for future experiments. Disgusting. Hian is consumed by rage. He points the gun at Chairman Kim. A shot rings out, but it's Hian who falls to the ground. However, Chairman Kim doesn't kill him, as he's still valuable as the first clinical trial participant. But the gunshot awakens something in Seobach. When Dr. Shin checks, Seobach is standing before Dr. Im's body. Dr. Shin senses something is terribly wrong and tries to grab a drug to control Seobach, but it's too late. Seobach has lost his only emotional anchor and has broken free from his restraints. Finally, in this entire lab, no one but Dr. Im can command him anymore. Seobach uses his brainwaves to control Dr. Shin and slams him to the ground. The others, seeing Seobach's immense power, naively think they can kill him. Little do they know that this isn't a game of cat and mouse. It's a massacre by Seobach. He stands in the face of a hail of bullets and destroys the lab, then wipes out the mercenaries. Seobach's rage fills the old, dying chairman with the realization that death has come early, for that innate power was completely released at this moment. With Seobach's telekinetic control, he can distort and destroy any person or thing. The paralyzed old man before him is instantly crushed into dust. The massive ship being used as a lab is violently shaking. The special ops team lying in wait outside is stunned. But then they see a vehicle tear a massive hole in the side of the ship. They know that death is standing right before them. On orders Seobach's immediate termination, a barrage of bullets flies towards him, but not a single one can touch him. Seobach snaps. He unleashes his energy to the point that blood starts streaming from his ears. An earthquake erupts, followed by a massive explosion that obliterates all the mercenaries. Seobach has expended too much energy. His body can't withstand such a massive release of power. Seeing Seobach's terrifying power, On knows he can't let the secret of his existence be revealed. So he drives an armored vehicle, intending to use heavy firepower to eliminate Seobach. But even facing such intense firepower, Seobach can withstand it. However, his body has reached its limit and he collapses. Just as On adjusts his aim, ready to deliver the final blow, Hian drives another armored vehicle, smashing into On's vehicle. He uses his vehicle as a shield, protecting Seobach from being killed. He tells Seobach to run, but Seobach looks at him and replies, "You know better than anyone that I have nowhere to go." Here is the incredible person who said the most powerless words. But in fact, if Seobach still exists, there will be countless people who cause all kinds of massacres to compete for him. However, facing those who want to kill him and harm the people he cares about, Seobach can no longer tolerate it. He steps forward again into the rain of bullets. The armored vehicle is crushed. He creates a bottomless pit, swallowing On and the mercenaries below. The destructive power is earth-shattering. The mercenaries, who did everything for money, quickly realized what hell is like. They scream and climb, desperately trying to escape being cast into hell. Hian wants to stop Seobach, but Seobach wants to kill them all, leaving no one alive. He says these people are like insects. Humans are gonna die anyway, so why not now? Seobach is doing this to show Hian that his existence only has two extremes, either becoming an existence that helps humans overcome death, or becoming a nightmare that plunges the world into hell. He doesn't know which choice to make, and he doesn't know if he will ever lose control. So he forces Hian to make a decision, even taunting him. "End it all here. Please. I can't bring myself to kill you. Are you afraid that if I die, you'll die too? Face everything." At that moment, Hian understands that Seobach knows everything. He sees the truth of things more clearly than anyone. Those who exploit him have no sense of right or wrong. But if Hian chooses to survive, he'll be no different than Chairman Kim, the man who created Seobach to satisfy his own selfish desires. Especially after Seobach told him the truth about life. What people fear is not death, but the meaning of their existence. Hian finally understands. He decides to end it all. He raises his gun and ends Seobach's life. Seobach doesn't blame him. He simply drifts into eternal sleep. A short time later, Hian, before preparing to leave, visits Seobach's grave. He is now ready to face his illness. And that's where our story ends. Seobach isn't just a sci-fi action movie. It's a profound journey that raises philosophical questions about life and death. The film successfully portrays the contrast between Agent Hian's desire to live and Seobach's tragic existence. It helps us understand human nature when faced with the limitations of life. Moreover, the actor playing Seobach delivers an outstanding performance, showing us what a meaningful life truly is. Have you lived a meaningful life? If we all die, what is the meaning of our existence? If you knew you didn't have much time left, how would you live? If you were no longer on this earth tomorrow, would you truly be satisfied with your life?